Guys, welcome back to this series. We're up to Gold 3. We are going to be introducing some new pressure tools. In particular, we are going to be introducing the Shimmy, which we have been mentioning a fair bit, but now we're going to really introduce it properly, particularly using it to punish tech throws. Throw techs, rather. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about solar plexus and heavy hashogeki, but we're mostly going to leave those tools for Platinum 3. Alright, so what is the Shimmy? Right, so the Shimmy is basically a technique where you suggest to someone that you're about to throw them, and then you actually walk away, and then their throw whiffs like this, and then they're in a punish counter state, and you punch them in the mouth. Let's have a quick look at that. So I'm going to put Chun-Li's wake up reversal to just be normal throw, delayed by 8 frames. So that's our delay tech situation. I'm going to have her on block after first hit, and then I'm just going to sweep her so there's a hard knockdown. And that's basically what we want to be doing. Now, because you get a heavy punish counter, you can go into heavy hashogeki, which is really nice. So the Shimmy is brutal. Like, when you get shimmied and someone hits you for the punish counter, you take a lot of damage, which is generally why in Street Fighter games at the higher levels, the advice is to take the throw. That said, I noticed 2 things. So one is that in gold, platinum, and low diamond, people are just loving the delay tech. And you'll just sort of notice that, particularly as you start to integrate drive rush. Like maybe in gold, initially your drive rushes will just be really effective. But then as people adapt to being drive rushed at, like particularly through kind of high platinum, low diamond, people will be throw teching a lot against drive rush. And you'll notice that when you drive rush in and punch, they block it. And when you drive rush in and throw, they tech it. And that tells you that they're throw teching. And those are situations where you need to start integrating the Shimmy. The other thing about the Shimmy that's, I think, really important, and that I guess a lot of the other videos on the internet don't say, is that the Shimmy is really powerful against people who do OD uppercuts all the time on wake up. So in Chun's case, that would be her OD Tensho kicks. So obviously, if someone does an OD uppercut wake up when you are looking to shimmy a throw tech, you are still going to block the OD uppercut. So it stops a lot of options. And really the only thing that kind of beats Shimmy hard is if you wake up with low forward, which you see some pros do and some higher level players, but it's pretty rare. And you have to kind of represent Shimmy a lot before someone really starts to wake up with that deliberately. And because wake up reversal uppercuts are so common in the lower levels, I think it's worth just integrating the Shimmy into your game like 30% of wake ups until later on. So once you get to sort of diamond, then you can start toning it down. Then you can use it like 1 in 5 or something. You just need to represent to your opponent that sometimes it will be there. The other time you use shimmies is when you have plus frames. So particularly on jump ins, it's quite useful to do the double jump shimmy. So if Chun were to block, let's put her on block reversal, normal throw. What's going on here? Delay tech, and then I'm going to put her on block all. So you can often just do this sort of thing, right? And then you get a mad, huge punish. Oh, how good's that? You didn't even have to try. You can also just, of course, do this one. Right, but often the double neutral jump is better because after a jump in, you're usually about plus 11 or something like that. So unless your opponent's got really good anti-air reactions in those situations, you can just reset that plus 11 situation, or if they tech or press a button, then you'll get the big punch. So those are the 2 ways to shimmy. You can do the neutral jump shimmy, or you can do the walk in and walk out shimmy. There's also later on the backdash shimmy, and that's particularly important when you're drive rushing. So if you're drive rushing in, then often you're so close to the person afterwards that you can't actually back up if you think you want to shimmy. So what you have to do is backdash. You have to go Right? And I would put that down in the very advanced category. So that's one of the first things that I would be working on in Masters level, is integrating the backdash shimmy into my drive rush game. But I don't think we need that down here. The main thing we need down here is just the walk back shimmy. So how would we practice that? Well, it's pretty easy to set up in training mode. Go into your dummy settings, put it on block after first hit. Start by going into reversal settings, go to wake up reversal, and have your dummy set to wake up doing a normal throw on a delay of 8 frames. That's a delay tech. You could do 5 frames. That's a very fast delay tech. Most people have pretty heavily delayed techs at about 8 frames. Right, and what you're practicing is just the motion, right? So you are practicing recognizing that she did the throw, and then you're gonna hashogeki. Now don't do this too much, do it like 10 times, right? There's a really bad habit to get into to always be canceling that heavy punch. So pretty quickly, after you've just got the basic motion down, also have her sometimes just wake up blocking for 3 frames. And now what we want to practice is not canceling the heavy punch. Indeed, not even pressing the heavy punch in a lot of cases, but certainly pressing the heavy punch on a big delay, and you'll find out why in a second. Alright, so we're just going to back up. So there I was slow. Alright, she loves it. I'm just surprised at how much it's doing it. I'm worried I haven't turned it on. Oh, I have turned it on. Right. Don't forget to practice your proper hashogeki sequence. Right. Yep, so there was the big delay. Alright, so be doing that for a while until you're good at either just putting out the heavy punch on a big delay or doing the heavy punch cancelled into hashogeki, and then also turn on vertical jump. And this is why we really want to have it on a big delay. Okay? So that was bad, right? I shouldn't have cancelled. Nice. I was much better at this in practice. Bad sequence. And that's why we want to practice getting that shoryuken in there, because if you press your heavy punch when she's in the air, you are going to eat a full jumping combo. And particularly in the lower levels, when people think that you're going to throw them, they often jump, which doesn't work, and you can see why it doesn't work. You have heaps of time to get the anti-air out. Even if you are trying to throw them and they wake up vertical jumping, you have plenty of time to get out even a heavy DP, right? But especially to get out a medium DP, right? Or a light. So what you actually want to be doing is backdashing when someone's trying to throw you. But yeah, that doesn't really seem to come in until diamond, because most people in these lower grades can't do the whiff throw into GP, right? But that's something that you want to prepare for in your shimmy game, right? So going back to the shimmy, as I said, backwards, vertical jump, and normal throw. And now we're just looking, if we just back away from that neutral jump, that's fine. The main thing is just not to press a heavy punch, because the heavy punch will lock you into that situation. And equally, we don't want to be pressing heavy punch and going into hashogeki all the time. So obviously going into heavy hashogeki when your opponent's blocking is pretty good, because it's going to leave you at +2 afterwards, but it's very susceptible to drive impact. So if you do that every single time, your opponents will eventually adapt to that and start to drive impact you, and that's going to be very costly. So what you want to do is mostly just have that delayed heavy punch, and then occasionally that delayed heavy punch, you're going to just go into a heavy hashogeki like that, right? Try to keep your opponent guessing a little bit. All right, but mostly we've got these 3 on for now. And we're just trying to recognize that situation and complete our full combo. Oh, there I was a little bit slow on it. That was a bit slow. See there, I was looking for the jump in again. Nice. Alright, so just be practicing that, and then also put in crouching light punch. You'll find that as long as you're moving backwards, she should just jab you and you'll block, and that's fine. Like in that situation, alright, like they're out of pressure, right? But you've got to count those as not a situation where you're now, oh dang, I had pressure and now I've lost it. Like if you always pressure your opponent, then eventually they will be waking up with OD reversals and you'll get boomed for that. So you need to occasionally put the shimmy in, and that means that occasionally they'll wake up either jabbing or they'll wake up with a delayed jab and you'll be back to neutral. That's fine, especially if you've got them in the corner when you're doing this, they're still in the corner. Now, of course, as I just showed, turn on the OD Tensho kicks eventually as well. And so now the throw should not come out very often, but you'll be able to also practice punishing that. Okay. I probably shouldn't have pressed that heavy punch there. Oh, I'm proud of myself for that uppercut. Not proud of myself there though. Chun's Tensho kicks doesn't complete the whole animation when you block it. And so you really have to like get this out pretty quick, or get the heavy punch hashogeki out, and I'm rusty. So anyway, that's your basic shimmy drill, and you just want to integrate that into your game. Then the next thing we need to talk about then is other situations in which the shimmy will come up. So obviously it comes up a lot when you're waking up on somebody, but this is mostly going to happen in the corner or after sweeps, because there's not a lot of other situations in which you're just walking up and walking back on someone like this. In our Oki situations, like the light tatsu, you're almost always going to be doing hashogeki afterwards, and people are mostly going to be back rising on you. So if you're dashing and back rising, you're not going to get a throw here, and if you walk in and try to throw, then usually people are just going to jab you out of it, right? So you don't really get actually a lot of shimmies with Ryu coming off the wake up, except in the corner. Off medium tatsu, you're always going to have to drive rush in and do your heavy punch. Off the DP, you're also going to have to drive rush in, and because you're drive rushing in, you're always on top of someone with forward momentum. So you can't just start walking backwards. You won't get away in time. Their throw will actually catch you in a lot of cases. And that's why eventually you want to integrate this one, right? And that's exactly what happens. So they think that there's no way for you to shimmy them, but you actually can with the backdash. All right. One last thing I have to mention is that in the lower grades, people just love waking up mashing jab. I'm just blown away by how much they do it. And so initially you have to generally represent that you have good Oki. So you have to represent that your meaty timings are good, and that if they wake up mashing jab, they're going to get blown up. And I find that that's most of the first round, is just you emphasizing that you have meaty timing on your wake up, and that you can occasionally stop people. You will occasionally block when they try to do OD reversals. And now the person actually has to be a little bit more sensible about their defense. They can't just be mashing jab or OD uppercut all the time, or drive impact, which is still something that you see people doing on wake up bizarrely. Once you've established that and they're blocking, then you can establish your throw game. And it's only once you've established a throw game, so usually kind of deep into the rematch, the second set, that you can then start integrating the shimmy. So the shimmy is something to be practicing already, but I don't actually think it's going to come up all that much. Mostly it's going to come up with you blocking their OD reversals, not so much with you taking out their throw techs. I think what you more want to observe is when people are shimmying in other situations. So they're, throw teching against your jump-ins, or they're throw teching against your other forms of pressure. So particularly they're throw teching against that drive rush that we practiced in Gold 2, and against this drive rush that we practiced in Gold 2. And so I think the next thing to do after you've practiced the wake up shimmy, and it's probably worth practicing the wake up shimmy in the corner off a more conventional knockdown rather than the sweep. So maybe you would practice like light tatsu into shimmy, that sort of situation in the corner, because that's going to come up a fair bit. Once you've practiced that, then I would go back into the drill we were doing in Gold 2, still have your wake up options turned on, but now really focus on what you're doing in block reversal and have the normal throw turned on and have backwards turned on. Let's put it on 4 frames. So they're going to move backwards for a bit. And now you want to just do the same drill we were doing before, but looking for the shimmy option. So there I should have done heavy punch. What? Oh, I have to put it on random. That's why it's not working. That's why she keeps getting hit. Bingo. Alright, that's what you need to be practicing. So you need to be practicing. Sometimes you come in with the crouch low, and often you'll be going into this sequence, right? Or you'll be throwing them, but now you also want to practice shimmying them and looking for that throw bait. And then, of course, also be practicing this one. Right? Now, once you've got the hang of it, which shouldn't take you very long, then you need to go into your reversal settings and not just turn on block or normal throw, but also crouch, light punch, drive impact, vertical jump, which we were practicing before. Now, I was actually pretty proud of the frequency with which I managed to get those dragon punches out. I have worked on that for many, many hours. So you'll find that when you first start doing this drill, you just never get the dragon punches out. They just get those neutral jumps out for free. But if you really start getting that down and people can't just kind of neutral jump out of your pressure because you just dragon punch them and then you continue with some really nice wake up oki, that becomes super powerful. All right, so that's the shimmy, and I think it's really worth integrating into your game here from Gold. You'll find that you'll often notice that people seem to be throw teching, like they're just covering all your options, and then you want to get the shimmy in, and if you can't get the walking shimmy, then try the backdash shimmy as well. All right, okay. I want to talk for a little bit about solar plexus and hashogeki, so let's get into that. I'm going to do a whole video on hashogeki and solar plexus pressure when I get to Platinum 3. In the meantime, if you really want a kind of deep dive on the hashogeki, Mature TV, who's one of the best Ryu channels on YouTube, he has a brand new video on hashogeki in season 2, and he's going to cover everything. But Mature is like a 1900 MR master rank Ryu, so a lot of his content is like pretty high level, but he also does coaching, so he knows how to make content that's accessible. I'm going to talk in Platinum 3 a bit more about kind of real dumb, or not dumb, like just low level hashogeki stuff where you don't need to play 4-dimensional chess with it. All I want to talk about here is just integrating hashogeki and especially integrating solar plexus into your neutral game. Like we've already been doing hashogekis off our heavy punish, and so you may already have it integrated into your game a little bit, but let's just talk about it in slightly more detail. So both of these tools are very important bits of Ryu's neutral game because they're both plus. Right, so solar plexus is +3 on block, and hashogeki obviously juggles when you hit, but even on block it's +2, and it leaves you right in front of them. So they both leave you right in front of them. Indeed, they both move you forward. So they're actually good after block strings like this. If your opponent blocks, then you end up really close to them again, and plus in their face, so you can throw. Same thing with the heavy hashogeki. Right? If you want to continue your pressure like that. The problem with both of them is that they're really slow. So solar plexus is 20 frames, and the heavy hashogeki is a whopping 30 frames, which just takes so long to come out. So they're both highly susceptible to our old friend drive impact, and people down here in Gold will still just be randomly throwing that out, right? So generally speaking, you don't want to be doing either of them very much. You want to be doing them occasionally. So after you've got this pressure string, which you do in the corner especially, but which you also do after like a light jump in, for example, if your opponent just blocks all of that, then mostly just let it go. Just like walk out of the situation, just get back to the neutral, start throwing your fireballs again, do a medium kick to just check them out, maybe walk back and do one of these ones to keep your pressure. That's what we're going to be talking about in Plat 3. We're going to be talking about space traps and just generally like the close-in danger zone sort of neutral strategies. So one that you want is definitely this one, right? And this only really works if your opponent puts out a button. So if they put out a jab as you're walking away, then this will whiff punish that jab and you'll get the drive rush. But you can also do this sort of thing, okay? And that's really powerful because your opponent's often trying to walk out of pressure there, so you'll catch them low, that sort of stuff. But often you just want to do nothing, right? And then your opponent doesn't really expect anything to come after that, and that's when this sort of thing becomes really powerful because your opponent stops paying attention at that point. So they're not ready to hit drive impact when you come in with the solar plexus. The time that I use hashogeki, because hashogeki is 30 frames, solar plexus only 20. So mostly you should be using solar plexus because it's safer. The time I use hashogeki is actually neutral drive rushing with crouch medium kick. I find that very few people DI in that situation. They're just kind of not ready to. You need to be careful because often in the lower grades, when you do this in neutral, especially from far away, people just react with drive impact. Right, and if you go into this and immediately into heavy hashogeki, you will lose to that drive impact. So you have this plan, but just try and put the crouch medium kick out and look what your opponent's doing, right? And if they're not drive impacting, then you can complete the cancel. Right, but I find that to be quite a useful way to skip neutral with Ryu. You can even follow it in behind the fireball like that, right? And then your opponent will be really kind of defensively minded, and now you're in their face and you're plus, and you can get some pressure started. So I think that's a really useful space to use heavy hashogeki. And then sometimes I do use it in those shimmy situations. So you've shimmied, you've done the delayed heavy punch. Often you'll just do the delayed heavy punch and chill, right? You don't want to give your opponent the sense that your pattern is to always go into this, right? If your opponent really just lets you abuse that, then that's great. Then you should really abuse it. But mostly speaking, maybe every third time, often you'll just fireball, but then every now and then do the hashogeki, right? And then you can maintain your pressure, you can get back in, throw them again. And once you're throwing them a lot after solar plexus or after hashogeki, then you can also start shimmying them, right? Then you can start shimmying them and integrate the shimmy in a second layer. So not just in the wake up, but also after any of these situations where you have plus frames. And that's what I want to talk about in a bit more detail. So let's put Chun on dummy settings to block all. Because it really depends on your spacing. So I would have Chun just moving around in a drill, and I'll show you this in a second, and blocking. And that's basically it, nothing more than that. And you just want to be moving around as well, and then throwing out solar plexus occasionally and just getting used to the spacing. So when you're really close after a solar plexus like this, it's trivial to go in for the throw. But sometimes you'll catch them really quite far away with solar plexus. So there I got the full 2 hits of the solar plexus, but I'm miles from her. It's going to take me quite a long time to get in, and anyone who tends to mash jab will just jab you out of that sequence. So going in for the throw there is a bit sketchy. What you probably want to do instead, especially if your opponent's used to you throwing, is just follow it up with the strike, okay? Now you can follow it up with strike fireball occasionally. There's not much point in that, but it does get you fully back to the neutral. There I was pretty close. There maybe I could have even gone for the throw, all right? So you want to be kind of 50-50 strike throw, mix-upping them when you're in close with the solar plexus. But when you're really far away, just do it again, all right, because you're plus. All right, so you can also sometimes just back away here because it's quite risky for you to go into a second solar plexus. Like your opponent may well be ready to drive impact in that sort of situation. But it's also that if you've been abusing people with solar plexus into throw or solar plexus into that combo, then some people will start to do ODs on you, and then you can just back out and block that stuff. But it's also just nice to just continue the solar plexus pressure. But you should only do that when you're really far away, because when you're really far away, your other stuff's not really going to hit, but also a lot of your opponent's stuff is not going to hit. So the nice thing about the solar plexus is that at the start of the animation, it kind of draws Ryu's body back. It's really hard to see if I don't... Can you? So when you do this kind of stuff, if Chun sticks a jab out, let's have a look at that. I'm going to put this on count 3. Yeah, so then she's only going to jab after the third one. Right, that sort of situation, I'm going to get her. Now, jab is probably not her best option there, but what if she puts out... what would she do? Crouching medium kick, she's actually going to beat us, I think. Let's try that. Yeah. So that's kind of the button that you should be pressing there. You should get into the habit of when you see the distance of your opponent, press the appropriate button. But then you should often be doing this. Right, and then you're going to blow her up. So this is another reason why I think it's useful to often just do nothing after this sequence. Right, and get your opponent used to doing that, where they're like, yeah, I'm just checking him, it's fine. And then occasionally you'll just go and fully blow them up. Equally, if you're always doing light hashogeki and always blowing them up, then eventually they're going to block, and then you can do heavy hashogeki, and now they're blocking and you're plus in their face, and the sequence continues. So you always want to be showing your opponent a variety of things, right? Not letting them get used to any particular pattern. Okay, where were we? So yeah, say Chun is doing... Chun's not really the best person to demonstrate this with, but crouching medium punch? Yeah, that's the one you want, right? So she thinks she's going to reach you with the crouching medium punch, and if I just stood still, even then she wouldn't. But if I pressed another button, then she'd get me in, right? So in this situation, we want to hit them with the solar plexus and continue our pressure. Solar plexus will also catch them if they're moving backwards. What happens with solar plexus is that as soon as the move starts up, so before it becomes active, it locks the opponent in the position that they're currently in. So you can't walk out of it while the animation is happening. So if your opponent's trying to walk backwards out of your pressure, solar plexus will keep them stuck there. So I would say in gold you can abuse this quite a bit, but remember that it's very susceptible to drive impact, so you want to show people different looks. The last thing I want to say about these two moves, particularly the solar plexus, is that light kick is a really nice spacing tool for solar plexus. So if you whiff a light kick in someone's face like this, you know that you're at a great distance for solar plexus. So often I'm just like kind of putting this out in the neutral. And it's also sort of whiff bait, like your opponent thinks that you've whiffed something so they can attack you. They can put out like a crouching medium kick, for example, but they actually can't because they won't reach you, because this is a good spacing tool. It tells you how far away you are, and if you just touch them, then it pushes them back exactly the distance where crouching medium kick tends to start missing, and that's when you bust them with that. So the solar plexus will reach because it moves Ryu forward so much. So often in these kind of danger zone neutral situations, just put out a regular light kick and then follow it up with solar plexus on whiff or on block. Right? It works in both situations. Again, don't do this like constantly, but you can do it like quite a bit and people won't adapt to it. And I find that to be a super useful way to get some pressure going in this kind of danger zone neutral, where Ryu really needs to be comfortable. Other characters can kind of avoid this part of the game, but Ryu and Rashid, they cannot. So you want to be integrating that into your arsenal. All right, the other drill that I wanted to talk about is just to practice solar plexus and to practice whether you throw, whether you follow it up with this just to check them. You can even do jab light kick if you want a 2-button string when you're really close up, whether you shimmy them, or whether when you're really far away and you connect with the solar plexus, whether you just do it again. Unfortunately, you can't have the dummy moving around and also have all the block reversal, wake up reversal stuff on. So the best drill I can come up with for this is just to record Chun doing 6 different movement actions. So the first one, just have her moving around and finishing backwards. Then have one where she finishes forward but is mostly moving backwards, right? Because we mostly want to practice her blocking. Then we have one where she's, just mostly moving backwards. And then one where she's mostly moving forwards. And then I have her, I think, back dashing and forward dashing for the last 2, right? And now we just turn all of those on. Go back to the start and practice our solar plexus. Right, so I shouldn't have done that. I'm way too far away, right? Solar plexus whiffing in the middle of the screen is some real dumb shit. This is a good drill to do with Chun because she has a fast forward and backward walk speed, so it helps you learn about spacing. Alright, if you hit, go into your big combos. So I missed the axe kick there. Oh. So I am trying to catch her with the tip. So I don't want to be doing it when I'm this close to her either because it's too slow for that. So you want to sort of predict what's going on. If you get him in the corner, just start again. Always be practicing. Ooh, that was nice. See there, if she'd blocked that, I would have just done it again because I was right at the tip. So most of her buttons won't work when Ryu's hurtbox compresses at the start of the solar plexus. So it's a pretty safe situation in which to just immediately solar plexus again. There I'll probably just check her because I'm a little bit too far away to throw. And I want to kind of train the player to think that I'm always following up with a strike so that they don't tech. Right. So from that distance, I will follow up with a punch usually. Oh, that was very far. Right, in Diamond, that'll get you in trouble. Right, there, I probably could have gone for the throw. There, I would definitely go for the throw. Right, if you catch them with that close, then I think you usually want to go for the throw. Try to finish your combos. Work on your different wake-up options. Mostly I'm going to go for strikes, especially in the low grades where people don't respect anything. And then every now and then I'm going to go for a throw, like there, because I'm really close. And then I might also want to occasionally practice shimmying, right? But the other time you can shimmy is just like that situation there. Like often I would just go in again because it was really at the tip. But that's also an opportunity to just back out and see whether they do an OD. Alright, and that's basically the whole drill.